Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. Before we get started, just wanted to remind you to subscribe to the show on either the podcast or my YouTube channel. Please like this and share it with your friends on social media. Now let's get started with today's show. For those of you who don't know, I spent a good chunk of my career in the printing, publishing, and advertising arena. So I know a lot about the printing and imprinting industry and how it works. And I have to say that when I get into the author forums on social media for self-published authors, I am completely stunned by some of the questions that come up about book printing. They're making so many mistakes when it comes to book printing that can cost them a lot of money. And let's be very honest, anything is possible in terms of printing if money is no object. But if you don't have that kind of cash, like most authors don't, and you want to have a book that's at least profitable and not losing money, you have to really consider your book options carefully. So in today's episode, I'm going to go over some of the more common issues and questions that come up in these author forums, and I'll answer that for you based on my experience in the industry. The first question deals with print on demand versus book printing. Print on demand is a miracle, in my opinion. It is so fantastic, especially for self-published authors. I've been self-publishing educational materials and all of those kinds of things for many, many years. And I remember back in the day when it was really hard to do it. There weren't many options for printing books, and print on demand changed all that. What print on demand does is, like the name implies, it prints a book only when it's ordered. So that saves you from book printing. When you print books, you have to hire a commercial printer, one who specializes in book printing. Not all of them do. And they will print a whole bunch of books, big boxes of books for you if you want. And you buy those in advance and then you sell them to customers who buy. But the investment in book printing is huge. It's a huge upfront cost. So I don't really understand why self-published authors even consider it, because it is so expensive. And so print on demand is, in my opinion, the way to go for most self-published authors. And if you haven't seen one of these machines, it's pretty amazing. It looks like a giant photocopy machine, and it goes through all the processes of printing your book from a digital electronic file. It creates the book, it trims it, it cuts the pages, it binds them all together, and pops out at the end of the process as a retail-ready paperback book. So I think print on demand is the best choice for self-published authors. Now, one of the questions that I don't see very often, and I have to wonder why, is how many books should you print? This is where I think authors really get trapped, especially if they are not doing print on demand and they buy printing for it. They don't know how many books to order, and so they tend to over order, and then when they can't sell them, it ends up being boxes of books in their garage, which are just wasted money. If you are going to go with the book printing option, which of course I don't recommend, you should estimate about 1% of your author platform or fan base will actually buy your book. And in some cases, that might even be high. So again, print on demand, why are you not using it? An even worse question that I see, and this comes up pretty frequently, and I'm very, very shocked and surprised by it, is does anybody know a cheap overseas printer who could print my book? Oh my goodness. It's bad enough if you have to do it in your own home country domestically. It's expensive enough there. But what they're concerned about is the per copy book price. So they think if they can get a really cheap per book price, they can order a ton of books and it will all come out in the wash because they'll sell so many books. Well, self-published authors don't really have a good idea of how many books they're going to sell, generally, other than my 1% of your author platform will buy. I mean, you really, if you're a new author, you don't have any track record, so you don't really know how many books you're actually going to sell. So why do you want to do overseas printing? Now, overseas printing is a nightmare in waiting. And I have personal experience with that. I was in the promotional products industry, and that would be the imprinted t-shirts and mugs and pens and all kinds of printed materials that are done for promotional purposes. So one of my clients wanted a very special product that was only available through one supplier, and it was manufactured and imprinted overseas. So they ordered it. I made the arrangements with the supplier, and it would take several weeks for this item to get to the client. And of course, they want it for an event. Why not, right? So everything's going well. And then maybe, I don't know, a week or two before the event, I get a call from the supplier, and it's one of those, I hate to have to tell you this, but the total order done overseas had been imprinted incorrectly. Wait, what? That meant that the whole order had to be remanufactured and printed, and we're running on a tight deadline. So the supplier is my go-between between the manufacturer and imprinter in overseas and the client and me. And they hustled to get it done, thankfully. But the order had to be shipped FedEx, priority shipping from halfway around the world. Do you have any idea how much that is? It was more than the order itself. Oh boy. So the supplier apologized for giving me some Alka-Seltzer moments, and they picked up the additional shipping cost, which was very gracious of them. But not all suppliers will do that. Let's say there's an error on your book order. Do you think they're going to say, oh, yeah, we'll pick that all up? No, they might charge you for the shipping back and forth, and because you're so disconnected from the manufacturer or the producer of the book, it's just very hard to get things done. So please, 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 if you're going to print books, print them as locally as you can. And again, why are you not going with print on demand? There are some authors who post once they get their books, and we're not talking about anything that's done with book printing or anything like that. This is print on demand. And they'll post in the author forums that their printed books look horrible, quote unquote. I'm wondering what they mean by that. I would say in the majority of cases, if I saw the actual physical book, it would probably be, in my opinion, to spec or to specifications. Print on demand is amazing, but it's not super, super high quality. Now, here's where these authors get messed up. For their entire lives, they've gotten traditionally published books from a bookstore or Amazon or wherever, and they're like top line quality in terms of printing and graphics and dust jackets and all kinds of traditional printing quality. And they can offer that high quality because they're printing in high volume, and they can print in high volume because they're selling in high volume. You, as a self-published author, probably are not. So you're trying to balance all of these cost factors. You have to set your expectations to what is possible for your budget. I want you to frame this quote from me. Self-publishing profitably is a dance of managing budget, expectations, and competition. It's a difficult dance, and you have to learn how to do it. But don't set your expectations so high that you'll be disappointed with your results, and you might be tempted to overspend to get this super high quality that's way out of your budget range, and then you'll be at a loss. Another quality factor that comes up with print-on-demand books is my photos and graphics look blurry. Again, I have to tell these authors that you get what you pay for, but there are some factors that lead to this blurry situation when it comes to photos and graphics in print on demand. The first one is high resolution photos were not used. For print on demand on Kindle Direct Publishing, the standard that you have to meet is 300 dpi, dots per inch. Well, some authors don't have that high of quality of photos, although a lot of the photos that you can take with even your phone or your webcam are pretty high quality these days, but still they may not reach that 300 dpi level natively. And so what these authors do is they dump that lower quality, low resolution file in a photo editing app, and then they jigger with the DPI to force it to 300 DPI. It's going to look junky. It's not going to look right. So the files that you have to use, the photo and image files that you use in your print-on-demand book better be very high quality in terms of resolution, high resolution. It's also a question of paper. On the books you order through Kindle Direct Publishing, through print on demand, they use paper that might be likened, something that you're familiar with, like letter paper. It's a little bit heavier than that usually, but it's a smooth surface, but it's not a glossy surface. And when you print photos on this paper, it doesn't have that crispness that it would if the paper is what's called coated. If you are producing a book that is heavy on photos and graphics, and that's an important part of the book, then you probably want to look at some other self-publishing platforms. The two that stand out in my mind are BookBaby and Lulu, who offer premium photo printing paper options, because the graphics and photos are going to be crisper and they'll just look better on the page. But you have to ask yourself, do you really need those photos and graphics? Granted, for children's books or very photo-oriented books, yes, you're going to need those to print right. You're going to need those to look right. But for a standard textbook, text-based book, how many graphics do you really need? So it all has to do with the paper stock, and I have a little story about that too. When I sold advertising, it was for a trade newspaper. Now, newsprint is extremely porous, and it acts like a sponge, so photos don't look as crisp, even worse than anything you do on print on demand. And I would have these clients, they would be so upset that their photos weren't looking perfect. I said, it's the paper. So if you are concerned about that, you want to get some samples of books that have been printed through your self-publishing platform and with a print-on-demand option, and see what the quality is, because then that's the only way you can decide what is right for your book. But then again, you also have to look at the cost factor. Remember the self-publishing dance of budget and expectations? Don't overspend, okay, please? Okay, then the other question is, what book size should I use? Technically, you could print a book of almost any size you can dream up. But when you self-publish on platforms like Kindle Direct Publishing, you're given a limited number of choices of book sizes. I believe it's about 16 right now on KDP, and it's anywhere from about a half sheet of letter-sized paper up to about a letter-sized sheet of paper. And there's several sizes in between. Choose one of those sizes. One of the most common for trade paperbacks, for reading novels and other nonfiction books, is a 6x9, 5.5 by 8.5. Those are very common sizes. And you want to choose one of those sizes simply because they will charge you extra if they have to do a special size. Again, this budget issue. And these sizes have been chosen to optimize the paper for printing, as well as warehousing and retail distribution. So this is standard across the publishing industry. So choose one of those sizes. Otherwise, again, you'll be spending more money than you should or want to. Again, talking about graphics. Some people say, oh, I only have 3 color pictures or graphics that I want to include in the book, in the pages of the book. Guess what? You're going to be paying for printing, for color printing, for the whole book, just for those 3 pictures. It's all or nothing when it comes to color. You're either going to do all black and white, or if you have any color, it's all color printing. And color printing is expensive. So again, the profitability and budget issues come into play. Do you really need color? For some genres, it's almost a necessity, such as kids books. But for the majority of text-based novels and other nonfiction, probably not. So again, manage the budget and expectations. How about a hardcover book? I see some questions about that. Not so much in the forums, but sometimes on social, where the authors are going through all the process of developing a hardcover book. In all honesty, I did one hardcover book way back in the day, probably 25 years ago or more, when it was super expensive to self-publish a hardcover, and I purchased like maybe 2 copies, and each one was about $20 a whack. It was really expensive, and that was way back then. Now the prices have come down a little bit because there are hardcover printing options on self-publishing platforms. Not on Kindle Direct Publishing as of this recording, but Lulu and BookBaby and Ingram Spark offer hardcover options. So while I was researching for this episode, I priced out a print-on-demand hardcover edition on one of the popular self-publishing platforms. It was for a 250-page book, black and white interior, not even color, with a dust jacket. And the base price for that was $16.50, just for the production of it. But then there's all kinds of fees that are involved with it as well. And the self-publishing platform was suggesting that authors charge at least $33 for that $16.50 to produce cost because of all the fees that were involved. And that would be your break-even point, where you would make $0. A $33 price tag on a self-published book from a new or relatively unknown self-published author, that ain't happening in the market. Nobody's going to pay that unless they're your family and friends, or you want some, what I call, trophy editions to share or show. Again, watch this, the budget and your expectations, and look at the competition out there, because a lot of hardcover books that are traditionally published are in the $15 to $20, maybe $25 range. Okay. So you're going to be way overpriced for your market. So I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe to The Heidi Thorne Show on whatever podcast platform you like to use. I'm on all the major podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Amazon Music, Amazon TuneIn Radio. I'm on all the major ones. Pick your favorite. If you like the YouTube video better, you just have to subscribe to my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so that you get an alert when a new video is up. If you would share this video or my podcast with your friends on social media, that would be so appreciated. And if you'd like to see my self-published books, they're on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. All you have to do is type in my name, Heidi Thorne, and you'll see my author page, and that my books are listed there. If you'd like to connect with me, my website is very simply HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode, and in the meantime, have a great day.